Hi, I'm Tom. I'm tying the TK's El Dorado Deceiver. Tying it on a 3/0 Tiemco 600 SP. They're big, strong hooks, and this fly is designed for Dorado mostly, but peacock bass like it, all kinds of stuff like it. So I'm using a 200 denner thread. It's a gel spun, and I'm using a medium lead eyes, and I use them all painted red. And important thing is when I start is to tie this back a little bit, that it's because I'm gonna stack deer hair in the front there and spin some, and gotta have some space for that. So that's about right. And it's better to leave a little bit more space in the front because that stacking that deer hair, it gets really thick. But the big thing, another big thing is that this lead eye doesn't wiggle at all. So that's why this gel spun's really good, because you can crank down on it, get it nice and tight. So I'll cut that little tag off. First step, I'm tying in slopping, and I like to layer it. So they're all black and then a different color. And so this one I'm gonna do chartreuse. I'm using hairline slopping, some fluorescent chartreuse. And it'll go, I use 4 pieces on each side, so a total of 8 feathers of slopping, 4 on each side, and I layer them. I'll do a black, a chartreuse, and then chartreuse, black, chartreuse, black, chartreuse. That's do for a chartreuse. So, and I'm making these flies, they end up being about 6 inches long, so I'm gonna get it kind of measured up right where that plume gets real webby. Cut that off, get a nice plume that you can tie on. And another important thing is all these feathers are concaved, they're turned in, and so on the other side I'll turn them in too, but they'll go just that they don't get splayed out, so they stick together. I'll tie that in real nice. And I'll do the same on the other side. So black, chartreuse, black, chartreuse. I'm lining up the tips of the feathers. Then I'm coming back. I'm cutting that down that plume a ways. I like to just turn my vise a little bit so I get it right on top of that. Get them all turned in. This one kind of turned up. Got a little funky, so I'll just redo it. But it's important that they're lined up together, otherwise it looks like a mess. I like to lay my feathers out before I do it, so that they're easy to find. Some of the packs of slopping aren't very good, so I got to pick through it, find the good stuff. This one's still just a little bit, getting it just right, but I got to get it just right before I go. 1 second. That's hard to tell which way they turn. Black. Chartreuse. It's really hard if the feathers are bad, and these ones are pretty good, and it's still just a little tricky. But get it lined up. Good to go. Okay. Okay. So, got our slopping lined up there. Next step, I put some peacock curl. I'm using the large, strong stuff from Hairline. I'll take about, maybe 10 strands. And I want everything to be symmetrical on these flies. So you got 4 feathers on each side. And I'm just going to run this peacock curl right down the middle, right on the top, right on the middle. It's about, yeah, I'm all right with it just being a little bit longer than the schlappen. This feather just doesn't want to stay in there. Okay, well, it's just going to hang down, I guess. Next step, I'm going to take some flash. I flash them like this crystal flash. Again, from Hairline Dubbin. And it's fluorescent chartreuse. They've got a lot of different flashes, and I just like to match them up so it's same color as the schlappen that I'm using. So there's always the black in each one, and then the different color. I cut just half of, I'm just using half a strand, so I cut this half, and I'm going to putting half of it down one side, half of it down the other. Okay, so we got our peacock herl, now our flash, and again it's probably about 10 strands on each side. It's 10 strands of peacock, 10 strands of crystal flash, and now I'm going to use just a little bucktail. This is just I think it's called like northern bucktail. It's black, and it just gives that fly a little body, so I get it where about maybe a little bit smaller than a pencil width, and get a nice long piece like that. You can use a hair stacker if you want. I just kind of get a nice clump and pull out the short stuff. I'll go right on top of that, do a couple soft wraps, crank it down one more, and I like to just kind of splay it out a little bit so it comes around that fly, just gives a little body. Crank that down real good. And this is a step I like to just throw some glue to glue all that peacock herl, the schlappen, the bucktail, and this eye that's right there. I'm using this Zap-A-Gap. Use whatever, that stuff's works pretty good. And so now we're going to make the head. It's going to be a spun deer hair. But around this eye it gets a little hard to spin, so I just stack. I'll do 2 stacks. I'll stack one on the top, one on the bottom, and that's about maybe a little bit thicker than a pencil. I'm cutting right off. I'm using some Primo bucktail, or I guess it's just Primo, what is it called? Just deer hair strip. Comes in different colors, and we'll use the black, and then it's the same with the flash. I'll use the same color of the fly, so I have some green chartreuse looking deer hair I'll put in there too, just to give it a little bit of more green. So 2 soft wraps, and I cinch down on that, get a nice firm head in there. I like having those strands come out so it looks almost like a giant muddler with some of that deer hair coming off, those long strands coming off the back. I'll do this down the bottom. Like I said, you can spin it, but it gets a little hard to spin around that eye, so I just put 2 stacks. In the front, you can spin it when you get away from that eye. But, so I'm just cranking that down, getting it nice and uniform around there. You can really crank with this gel spun. I really like using it. So I'm going to put a strip right around this red lead eye of green. So I'm going to stack just a little bit of green Primo bucktail. And for the different colors, say if I'm tying one with red, I'll use some red around that eye. If I'm using purple, some purple bucktail. It just kind of gives it a little more color, and I think they look a lot cooler with just a little bit more character right there. That one's spinning a little bit, but I'll put another stack on there just to even it out. Okay, I like to use a little hair stacker here if you have one, or I just use my fingers, and that way I can just kind of move it around a little bit better. I'm getting close to that eye, so I'm just going to put just a real thin, one more, just don't want to cover up that eye. It's a big thing because these flies, a lot of times they're fished with wire, and so a lot of times 40-pound wire, you got to have that whole eye to stick it through there. If you start getting too close to stacking that deer hair to the eye, it's happened to me many a times, and it's no fun to be on the water when you're just want to tie on a new fly and you gotta go through all the glue and stuff to get it. So just a couple little deer hair strips right there. So we got a big old head. Went black, green, black. Now I'm just gonna press it back and I'll finish it off with a little whip finish tool. And then I'll trim it. Once we trim it, it'll be good to go. I'll show you a little something how I like to trim it. You can really pull down on this gel spun. I really like it. Okay, so we'll cut it off. So we got our fly nice and free. And it's all, yeah, you got a ton of deer hair. So you're just gonna, I trim it flush to the bottom on these just to keep that big wide hook gap. So I'm pushing down pretty hard, making sure I don't cut the thread, but at the same time getting it really far down. So I'm just gonna I'm just gonna roll it around there to kind of round out that head. You can use a razor. You can use, these are some Dr. Slick hair scissors. They work really well. But good luck with those. I end up cutting myself with razors more than I like, so I just usually use the scissors. So now I'm really trimming it down, still keeping some of that from that first time we stacked it. So we got a little, like I said, it almost looks like a giant muddler. Trimming it around. I like to trim it just so I can see the lead eyes, the red of those lead eyes. They're sunk in there a little bit, but you can still make them out. And I'm about finished. Just gonna make sure everything's good around that eye. Get in there, throw the wire through there. Or even heavy fluorocarbon, sometimes guys will use, but wire most of the time. Yeah, I'm just gonna put a dab of glue where I tied that knot off, on top and bottom, and there you have it. That's our TK's Dorado Deceiver. Thanks. Stop it.